The Bellagio was never supposed to feel quiet. For almost 3 decades, it stood as proof that Las Vegas could deliver on its biggest promise: luxury, energy, spectacle. But something is shifting inside that property right now, and most people haven't noticed yet. Empty floors, shorter stays, higher prices, because the Bellagio doesn't collapse, it whispers. And what those whispers mean isn't just about one hotel, it's about what's coming for the entire strip. Number 10. The lobby feels bigger than it used to. Walk into the Bellagio lobby in 2026 and something feels off. Not broken, not ugly, just different. The space feels wider than you remember. The Chihuly glass sculpture overhead seems to hang in more silence than it used to, and none of that changed. The architecture is identical. What changed is the people, or rather, how few of them are moving through it at any given moment. This lobby was designed for constant flow, overlapping waves of guests, checking in, tourists passing through, couples heading to dinner. That rhythm was the heartbeat of the property. It told you something exciting was happening here. But that rhythm has started to break. You notice it in the echo of your own footsteps. You notice it in how quickly you reach the elevators, without weaving through a crowd. Las Vegas saw visitor numbers drop over 7% in 2025, with the city welcoming roughly 35 million visitors through the first 11 months. Strip occupancy slipped to around 80%, and properties like Bellagio, built for volume and spectacle, feel that absence more than anyone. When a space is designed for crowds, and the crowds thin out, the emptiness doesn't hide. It amplifies, and the lobby is just the surface. Watch what guests are actually doing now. Number 9. Guests treat it like a photo stop. Here is something you can observe any afternoon. Groups walk up to the Bellagio fountains, pull out their phones, record a cycle of the water show, and leave. Some never even step inside. Others walk through the lobby, glance at the conservatory, grab a coffee, and move on. They came, they saw, they didn't stay. The Bellagio was built to be immersive. Steve Wynn didn't design it as something you admire from outside. The fountains were the invitation. The lobby was the welcome. The casino, the restaurants, the shows. Those were the reasons to stay. The entire property was a funnel. Beauty brought you close. Experience kept you there. But when guests start treating it like a museum you walk through on the way to somewhere else, that funnel breaks. Foot traffic through the door might still look decent on paper, but if those feet are walking through instead of checking in, the numbers underneath shift. Room nights drop. Restaurant reservations thin. Casino floors carry less action. The fountains still draw eyes. The conservatory still gets its photos. But the deeper engagement, the kind that sustains a luxury resort, is fading. And no property, no matter how iconic, can survive on photo ops alone. If the outside experience is becoming a quick stop, what about the inside? Because premium spaces are telling their own story. Number 8. Premium space is being used. Let's walk through the Bellagio on a Tuesday afternoon, and you will notice something strange. The hallways connecting the hotel tower to the spa wing are quiet. Lounge areas near the high-limit rooms sit mostly empty. Entire sections of the property, designed to impress and entertain, feel like they are waiting for someone to show up. These aren't forgotten corners. These are premium spaces built with Italian marble, custom lighting, and curated art. They were designed to be filled with guests moving between experiences. That movement gave the property life. Now many of those spaces sit idle for hours at a time, not closed, not roped off, just unused. And when luxury goes unoccupied, it doesn't feel aspirational anymore. It feels hollow. A beautiful lounge with no one in it doesn't say exclusive. it says overlooked. The Bellagio spans over 2 million square feet across 74 acres of prime strip real estate. That footprint was built for a different era of Vegas tourism. When that behavior contracts, every empty lounge becomes a cost center. Every quiet hallway is a reminder that the building was designed for a volume of engagement that no longer consistently shows up. And the activity that does remain, it's not spread evenly. It's bunched together in ways the property was never designed for. Number 7. The energy is concentrated into small zones. Spend a full day inside the Bellagio and you will notice a pattern. Activity clusters. It pools in a few specific areas and drains from the rest. The main casino floor near the entrance stays active. Certain restaurants fill during peak hours. The conservatory draws a steady stream. But step 50 feet from those hotspots and the energy drops off sharply. You can walk from a packed restaurant into a hallway where you are completely alone in under 30 seconds. A buzzing slot section sits next to a table games area where dealers stand waiting with folded hands. This unevenness is new. The Bellagio was designed so energy flowed throughout the entire property. Every wing, every corridor was supposed to feel connected to the larger pulse. There was no dead zone. That was the magic. Now the party is in a few rooms, and the rest of the building knows it. When a property can't generate enough activity to fill its full layout, the remaining guests naturally cluster toward the same few spaces. The result is a strange split personality. Parts feel alive. Others feel like they belong to a different resort entirely, one that closed for the season. And when activity shrinks, the next adjustment happens behind the scenes, because the staffing has already started to shift. Number 6. Staffing patterns changed. This one is subtle. You won't see headlines about it. No mass layoff announcements, no protests. But if you pay attention, you can feel it. The staffing at the Bellagio has shifted, not dramatically, not chaotically, quietly, strategically. Fewer visible staff during off-peak hours. Service windows at certain lounges have tightened. Scheduling is leaner, with coverage concentrated around predictable rushes rather than maintained throughout the day. These aren't panic moves. They are optimization moves. And in hospitality, optimization only shows up when demand becomes unreliable. When a property is consistently full, you don't optimize. You staff up. You make sure every guest feels like there are 10 people ready to help. That is the luxury standard. But when occupancy fluctuates, when the gap between a busy Friday and a dead Tuesday widens, management starts trimming where it can. The result is a guest experience that still works, but only if you arrive during the right window. Come during a peak moment, and the Bellagio delivers. Come during a quiet stretch, and you might feel like you're staying somewhere running on a skeleton crew. That inconsistency is new. And for a resort built on flawless, around-the-clock service, it's a crack guests are starting to notice. But staffing isn't the real shift. The guests changed first. Number 5. Guests spend more time inside their rooms. Here is a shift that doesn't show up in any occupancy report but tells you everything. Guests are retreating. They check in, go to their rooms, and stay there. Room service, streaming, standing on the balcony, watching the fountains from above instead of experiencing them from the promenade below. Part of it is cultural. Post-pandemic habits shifted everywhere. People got comfortable with smaller, private experiences. But part of it is a response to what's happening downstairs. When the casino floor feels less exciting, when restaurants require a $200 commitment, when shows demand $300 tickets, guests do the math differently. The room becomes the safe zone where you've already paid and don't have to keep swiping. This creates a paradox. Occupancy might hold on paper. Rooms might technically be booked, but public space usage drops. A guest who stays in their room all evening doesn't gamble, doesn't eat at the steakhouse, doesn't buy drinks at the lounge. They become a room night without a revenue trail, and for a property that generates a massive share of its income from what guests do outside their rooms, that behavioral shift is devastating. The Bellagio was designed for exploration. Every detail was meant to lure you out of your room and into the experience. When guests reverse that flow and retreat inward, the property loses the very behavior its entire business model depends on. And that leads to a bigger question. What does the Bellagio actually represent now? Number 4, Bellagio became a symbol, not a driver. There was a time when the Bellagio didn't just sit on the Strip. It drove the Strip. When it opened in 1998 as the most expensive resort ever built, it redefined what Las Vegas could be. Competitors scrambled to match its standard. Tourists flew in specifically to stay there. The Bellagio didn't follow trends. It created them. That era is over. The name still carries weight. The fountains still rank among the most photographed landmarks in the country. But the property no longer pulls people to Las Vegas the way it once did. Instead, it reflects what's already happening. When the Strip booms, the Bellagio looks great. When the Strip slows, the Bellagio shows it first. It has become a mirror, not a magnet. A driver property creates demand. It gives people a reason to visit a destination they might otherwise skip. A symbol property benefits from existing demand, but can't generate its own. The Bellagio crossed that line somewhere in the last few years. You can see it in how visitors talk about it now. They don't say I'm going to Vegas because of the Bellagio. They say I'm going to Vegas, and while I'm there, I'll check out the Bellagio. That shift changes everything. With Las Vegas visitor numbers declining for 7 straight months through 2025, that dependency on broader Strip health is a vulnerability the Bellagio has never faced before. It used to lead, now it follows. And where the Strip is heading right now is not somewhere any property wants to follow. But even as the crowds thin, one thing hasn't budged, and that might be the most telling signal of all. Number 3, pricing holds while foot traffic drops. Despite visible declines in foot traffic, despite thinner crowds and quieter corridors, Bellagio's room rates have not come down. Nightly rates still regularly push past $300 on weekends. The $55 per night resort fee remains firmly in place. Valet parking still runs $40 a day. When a property maintains premium pricing, while foot traffic drops, it tells you something clearly. Filling rooms is no longer the top priority. Margins are. The old Vegas model was built on volume. Get bodies through the door, charge reasonable rates, make the real money on the casino floor. That model required crowds. The new model is different. Charge fewer guests more money. Protect the rate. Accept lower occupancy if it means higher revenue per visitor. It works on a spreadsheet. But in practice, it hollows out the guest experience. Strip-wide average room rates climbed roughly 70% between 2015 and early 2025. But visitor satisfaction moved in the opposite direction. The perception of paying more for less is now one of the most common complaints online. When prices hold and energy fades, guests don't feel like they got a luxury experience. They feel like they overpaid for a quiet one. And those guests who do show up, they're not staying the way they used to. Number 2, visitors are shorter term. The way people stay at the Bellagio is changing. Extended visits, the 3 and 4 night getaways that defined a Vegas trip, are becoming rarer. More one-night stays, more event-driven bookings. Guests fly in for a concert, stay a single night, and leave the next morning. The Bellagio was built for guests who arrived and settled in, who unpacked, explored the casino, tried multiple restaurants, caught a show, lounged by the pool. One-night guests don't do any of that. They check in late, sleep, and check out. The interaction is transactional, not experiential. The impact shows in waves. The Bellagio feels busy on a Friday night when a major event fills rooms. Then Saturday afternoon hits, and the energy drains as half the guests check out. By Sunday morning, it feels like a different place entirely. That surge and collapse pattern didn't exist before. International visitors, who historically stayed longer and spent more, declined by 13% in mid-2020. 5. Convention attendance dropped substantially. These were the guests who booked multiple nights, ate at 3 different restaurants, and treated the Bellagio like a home base. Without them, what's left is a revolving door of quick stays that never let the property find its rhythm. The Bellagio doesn't feel empty. It feels intermittent. And intermittent is almost worse. And this is where all of it connects. Because the Bellagio wasn't just built to host guests. It was built for something much more specific. Number 1, Bellagio was built for momentum. Every observation on this list, the quieter lobby, the photo stop visitors, the empty premium spaces, the clustered energy, the staffing shifts, the room retreats, the symbolic status, the pricing strategy, the shorter stays. All of it points to one underlying reality. The Bellagio was built for momentum, and that momentum is weakening. When Steve Wynn opened this property in 1998, he didn't just build a hotel. He built a machine designed to run on continuous human movement. The fountains pulled people from the sidewalk. The lobby funneled them toward the casino. The casino connected to the restaurants. The restaurants led to the shops. Every square foot was engineered so that one experience naturally led to the next, creating a self-sustaining loop of activity and spending. That loop required one critical ingredient: overlapping crowds. Crowds that moved spontaneously, that wandered without a fixed plan, that stumbled into a bar because it looked inviting, or sat down at a table because the energy was magnetic. The Bellagio didn't need every guest to spend a fortune. It needed enough guests moving through enough spaces to keep the entire ecosystem alive. When that flow weakens, everything downstream feels it. The casino loses its buzz. The restaurants lose walk-in traffic. The lounges lose their atmosphere. The hallways lose their purpose. And the property, despite being physically unchanged, feels like a different place. The Bellagio doesn't decline loudly. It doesn't crumble. It signals. Through the gaps in foot traffic. Through the pauses between fountain shows when no one is watching. Through the empty chairs in a lounge that used to have a wait list. And if the Strip doesn't find a way to reverse the current trajectory, those whispers won't stay quiet for long. Because when the Bellagio starts to feel it, everyone else is already deep in it. The turning point isn't coming. It's here.